If you go on a walk this fall and you find cool mushrooms, please take pictures of them. I have a whole folder of mushrooms that I've taken pictures of on my walks. I love them. They make me so happy. I don't, I do know why. I mean, I don't like, they're just neat. I think they're neat. Fungi is really cool and interesting and complicated, and I think it's awesome. So, uh, like I said at the top of this looks very intimidating, but it is actually very easy. So let's get into it, okay? I'm going to take my pencil. I always use a mechanical pencil so I don't waste time sharpening, but you can use any pencil you like. And we're only going to draw a few things. We're gonna start with our tree stump, or I get it's a trunk. The tree goes up, right? If we think about object permanence. I'm gonna move my mic a bit closer to myself because I'm definitely facing away from it, or I was. So we're gonna draw our tree trunk here. So I start with a big curve like that, and then I round it off on the bottom like this. So one that's kind of like a bow, like bowing, and this one's like I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. Whatever. There's our tree trunk. It's so simple and easy, right? Um,
Say it again. It's really light. People, Julie can't see so great. If you can angle it maybe a little so we can see what you've drawn.
nah, it's cool. I'll draw harder. You can see that. I know you can, because I can see it. I'm looking up at it.
Okay.
Just two lines basically, and they do not have to be perfect. Actually, the less perfect they are, the better, the more natural it looks. I'm gonna draw two circles over here. Oh gosh, that is very light over there. But off to my bottom left, which is appearing on the right side. We're gonna draw three mushrooms. So let's start with the furthest left one. We're gonna start with two sticks in the middle of our circle here. And we're gonna round it off at the top. We're gonna leave it kind of going out here at the bottom, and then a little bit up, we're gonna draw like kind of an oval, I guess, coming from on top and then going back around. And then we're gonna add a thickness, like we're gonna add the mushroom cap to that. I don't even have the verbiage for like the anatomy of a mushroom to properly describe what I'm drawing, but you start with an oval and then we just subtly like add the mushroom cap and bring it around. So that's mushroom number one. Look at that. Wow, so pretty. It's actually like kind of too circular, but it's okay. I can fix that in post. All right, these next two mushrooms are a little bit more wonky, and that's why we love them. So we're gonna start with a short one here. So two curved lines going in the same direction, and then we're drawing the cap. Very like Smurf-like shape, I think. I know everyone has at least heard of the Smurfs here. The way their hats like kind of, and they live in mushroom houses too. It kind of looks Smurfy. This is a little too dramatic. I'm gonna kind of round it off a bit. Erase some of those more dramatic lines. Right? And then the mushroom next to it is going to sort of curve the opposite way. You got this curve here, and it's gonna come up a little bit higher. And it's gonna have like a bit of a bump out there. And its cap is going to make this like bean shape going from the top to behind. That looks like a bean. And we're going to add the thickness of the cap like so. And bring it like really thin at the bottom. So those are our first 3 mushrooms done. Look at that. We're gonna move on to the rest of them here. I don't know what these kinds of mushrooms are called, but they grow on the sides of trees and stuff, and they're really cool. They're like little platforms. So, and they should probably be the easiest ones to draw, I think. Again, don't be intimidated by all the colors. Just follow me. We got this. So, we're basically going to mimic this curve at the bottom with these mushrooms here. Over and over again. They're kind of bumpy, they're kind of irregular. And once we add our color to them, they'll look even better. They'll look even more believable. And we're gonna get like smaller and thinner as we go up. But yeah, uh, that's that pretty much. And the next and last group of mushrooms, and the last time we're gonna use our pencil this entire time. It's this little bunch of joy right here. I'm gonna start by drawing a loose circle and covering the light with my hand because the sun is beaming into my window and ruining my camera's exposure, but it's okay. And I'm not going to draw the exact amount of mushrooms. We're going to start with the caps because they're the most visible thing. So we're going to draw like, let me zoom in. These are kind of smaller. I'm going to draw like 3 sort of in a cluster here. Very like loosely. And then you're gonna draw a 4th one down there. This one has like a rounder top. And we're gonna have 2 more all the way up here. And so now that means that we're gonna draw our mushroom stems. Sort of like expanding out from this center point right here. And that's it. We're done. We're done with the pencil. We're all done with the pencil. Do we have the entire we have the entire picture in the frame here? I used a very limited color palette, very harmonious. Kind of sort of challenging, but I think it looks cool. I'm just busting out all the colors that we did use preemptively. But basically every yellow, there's four yellows, two oranges, one green, and two browns. And we're going to start off with yellow. We're going to start off with this yellow here. If I could focus it a little bit more. This yellow is very similar to the other two, but it's sort of like the midway point in between the lighter yellow and the darker yellow. And we're just going to cover this page in the back here. The reason why this piece looks so complex is because I used extensive layering of color, which is something that's only possible with the acrylic markers or like acrylic paint. I guess you could do it with oil paint too, but I don't know how to use oil paint. So I'm literally just swiping with the blunt tip up and down, and I'm going around our mushrooms here. Because a lot of our stuff is like a lot of our pieces, a lot of our elements are made up of the same colors, but like in different orders. Um, this piece is very yellow heavy. And we don't want to get that confused with like the whole piece, you know? Layering a piece like this is something that really could take forever. Like you could spend your whole afternoon doing it. So I'm trying to go as quickly as possible, but I implore you, if you have all afternoon, please take it up. You know, there's no rush to these things. I'm rushing because I have an hour, but you don't necessarily have an hour. Just up and down. This basically makes sure that when we layer our colors, that no white will bleed, like show through any of our layering. A more intelligent way of doing this is just using a yellow piece of paper, no lie, but hey, we work with what we got. I actually do have yellow paper, but still, it's satisfying. Now it's all yellow. The tree trunk, I know, she's brown, but we're going to start off with green, and this is like an army green. We're starting off with green. Please trust me, it will end up brown, but we're starting with green. Because again, when we layer our browns, we don't want any white to show through. And the green underneath gives it a real mossy feel. So I like to just start with like outlining our mushrooms, and especially because when I do pieces, I like to work from background to foreground as well, certainly, because then it's like the things that are in the front are also relatively like in front on the paper itself. I don't know how else to describe it. It makes sense in my head though to work on backgrounds first and then have the things in the foreground be completed last. Like I basically work in Photoshop layers, but in real life, because I've been using Photoshop for so long. But I think I've been doing this before I learned how to use Photoshop anyway, to be honest. I'm gonna fill in some of these like little gaps here. Once we finish this, then we get to the fun part. I think. Maybe not. I don't know. There's a lot of parts to this. But now we're gonna bust out the brown. There's two browns, like I mentioned, and we're gonna use the lighter brown, the more like milk chocolate, kind of like warm brown. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw our distant trees in the background here because they add a sense of depth to the piece. So I'm just gonna start by drawing lines. They look kind of goofy, right? And just drawing them like off the paper like that. And I'm going to switch over to the brush tip side and I'm going to sort of give them more shape besides being a straight line. Right? Yeah, this looks good to me, right? So now let me inspect this and see. I made this back in August, so bear with me. It's been a month since I made this. Okay, yeah. So I actually did not pull out two greens because I didn't know when I was going to use them. but they're really like blue green, and we're gonna use the darker one to add a million billion trillion dots really, really fast to make these like bushes. I love adding dots. It's very relaxing to me. So we're just gonna go and we're gonna focus on like the bottom of the trees here first, so that we just like hide those blunt edges, you know? We don't really need to see where those end. So that's the first pass. We're gonna make it a little bit thicker so that it's especially like more difficult to tell because right now it's very much like, oh, like we're just covering it up versus like that's not what it's giving in the final piece, right? Like it very much looks more natural. And that's really just layering, baby. So, and eventually, I think after this pass, we're gonna switch over to the brush tip to get more like finer dots. Because I think that's what really sells it. But you don't want to think about it too much. You just want to place dots in the general areas that you want covered. You do not want to deliberate over every single dot placement. It's not that serious. Nature does not deliberate over that, so why should we? Leaves just grow where they grow. All right, switching over to brush tip. We're going to place, I'm going to zoom in. Look at how tiny those dots are. I'm going to place a million trillion of them, sort of creeping up onto the trees very rapidly. You can take more time. But honestly, I feel like if you have shaky hands, like this is really good. Like you can kind of just let your hand shake on a paper, low key. Or like you can try, see, I'll try to use my left hand. I'm right-handed. You get some real interesting shapes there. But that actually hurts. I'm not gonna keep doing that. I need more practice. I'm doing this really fast, so it's actually kind of stressful, but if you do it at a more reasonable pace, I promise it's more relaxing, especially if you got some good music on or like a TV show. I think that's the thing. Like, can I get personal for a second? Like, I really came into being an artist for my mental health back when I was a preteen and I got diagnosed with stuff. That's when I fully dove into making art and exploring different mediums and stuff. So that's really how I approach art making to this day, if I'm being real and honest with y'all. We're gonna bust out that army green again, and we're going to add a bunch of scribbles. Let's zoom out. Goodness gracious. This is like a whole pile of leaves. It will not look like leaves after this first pass, but once we've done every color that needs to have been done, it will. And you'll be like, wow, I can't believe I made that. And it's very easy. And I'm just scribbling lines from left to right, kind of going up and down a little bit, but they're not that precise and they're not that distinct. And they're not even that close together because we still want some of that yellow to show through, you know? And of course, we're going to add a bunch more colors on top. But we're just going to do this sort of all over the um, the ground here. Because I don't know how much we'll be able to get done for real. And I'm trying to I'm deliberating in my head what are the most important elements. I think I know what they are. And this is one of them. At the very least, you'll get the fundamentals of the whole piece. Because now I think it's now I think it's time for us to color in our mushrooms. There's this yellow that's like kind of gray, kind of brown, um, kind of tan, kind of like it's like khaki. That's this yellow. This is the fourth yellow. We're gonna start with that because that's the color of these mushrooms over here. This entire mushroom to the far left is this khaki. Like that is its base color. I'm going to leave like subtle white gaps in between each element of this mushroom, just so that I know where my lines should go. But yeah, the stems for these mushrooms here are this khaki color. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the for the khaki there. We're going to take out another yellow though. The yellow that we used, the same yellow that we used for the background. And I'm going to apply it to the inside of this mushroom. And that mushroom there. And also these mushrooms growing out of the trunk of the tree. We have a lighter yellow. You can barely tell, but you will tell in real life that it's a lighter yellow. And we're going to use that for these mushrooms here, these baby mushrooms. And then for these mushroom caps, we're going to paint them orange, the light orange. There's two oranges, there's dark and light. We're doing light first. And this is just such a yummy color. This is like orange sorbet as a color. So yummy. You can't even see how yummy it is. Oh my gosh. The sun is a deadly laser right now. Trust me, they look so good in person. Like they look so good in person. Like they really do. Like it's giving this. Like it's the like you'll see. You'll see. Now, most importantly, we're gonna add the brown to this trunk because it looks kind of crazy, right? I agree. Light brown blunt tip. I'm going up and down in squiggly lines. That is what I am doing. We're gonna do the same thing again with the dark brown, but I'm doing it with the light brown first, you know? Squiggly lines up and down. Might be cool to add some of that khaki color in this, but not too much, just enough. I'm just going up and down and wiggling my marker side to side. And filling in the gaps between the mushrooms. Guys, we got 20 minutes left. Oh my goodness. Okay. Some khaki, just some. Not as many. Definitely want it to be like more spread out.
already starting to look cool and bark-like.
Yes. Now we're going in with dark brown and we're doing brush tip for dark brown. Because this is really for real where it goes down. Shaky line to outline our mushrooms. Then we're gonna add, look at that right there, that little corner. So I just outlined those mushrooms there. And I'm gonna do the same for the rest of them. So these squiggles, it's the same sort of idea as the ones we've been doing. They're just thinner and closer together. So they'll certainly take the longest. Like each layer you add should get more and more refined in detail. Which is the process of like turning a sketch into an illustration. Except we're doing it with color, which is pretty cool. Going back and forth, up and down. Thank you, Julie, for coming. Boom. Okay, we have 15 minutes and we have all these mushrooms to do that are done differently. But I don't know what to do first. And I'll say for the leaves in the background here, you really want to like do the same thing that we did with the green, but with every color. I guess except for the blue, greens. Just like super duper quick. I'm going in with the orange right now. And then I'm gonna go in with the dark brown. I know it's kind of intense, but we're gonna cover it up. So it appears more like shadows than big dark blotches. I'm gonna use it to sort of cap off those, cover up those like mushrooms right there. Gonna use the light brown. I'm not gonna use that side. We're gonna use this side. Definitely want was definitely supposed to do like smaller bits back here. But I'm rushing. So, excuse that, please. Going in with the khaki. And with my dark orange. And the idea was to have all my dots over here, but we gotta get to the mushrooms, so we're gonna skip that. But a bunch of orange dots sort of fading into the green dots. All right. So these mushrooms here, we're gonna stay with this dark orange. Then we're gonna outline like the bottom. And then have dots fading into the light orange. In my original piece, I did the light orange dots fading back into the dark orange, but I'm not going to demonstrate that. It's the same principle. I'm gonna grab our light orange to add. Can you see that? Barely. Jeez. Like those sorts of shapes and stuff underneath um the mushroom cap there. We're gonna grab the brush tip of our light brown and we're going to use it to define the different portions of this mushroom. And we're gonna do the same thing with some dark brown, but like less. We're gonna add light brown to these stems here. And we're actually gonna add some yellow too. So those mushrooms are done. We're moving on to these. This is kind of important. And I'm going to demonstrate it with the dark orange. I made a line like that, starting from like here. Almost like the way a seashell fans out. It's kind of what you want to do. Um, and I use light orange and light brown to add more and more detail. But the main thing that you want to do is leave yellow along the edge for sure. And let's get on to these mushrooms here. They sort of gradient from dark orange to yellow. So that's exactly what we're gonna do, and we're doing it while the dark orange is still wet. We're not doing any dots or anything, like we're just covering up the last layer with the next layer a little bit. And then we're gonna do it with this bright yellow, the top of the mushroom caps. Yeah. Um, I outlined my mushrooms with Sharpie in my tree trunk, and I like kind of drew some leaves on top over here. And you should absolutely feel free to do the same because I think it really makes everything pop against each other. Because, like I said at the top of this, like everything is sort of the same color, low key. They're all made up of the same colors for sure. So the black sort of helps differentiate like foreground and background, and it lets us highlight like important features that we want to pay attention to. Like I drew lines in the stems here and like underneath the cap there, and I drew lines around these mushrooms here to sort of show the growth pattern of that. And this mushroom is just covered in lines. But there's no lines in the background, not even like for the tree trunks and stuff. So keep going, keep having fun. Take pictures of any mushrooms you see on your nature walks this fall. And that's all the time I have today, unfortunately. So thank you guys for drawing with me.